Again, good morning. We are going to talk about today job interview tips. So how to succeed in job interviews. Can I ask Talia how many students from fourth year or the last year, or there is mixed number of students?
Probably there are a lot of students from different universities and also from different countries. That's why I cannot say exactly the number.
Maybe they can put the year that they are starting in the chat section. It would be better.
No, it's not so important. Just I wanted just to understand the how to say the potential interest level of audience. The points which I will discuss today mostly addressed to third and fourth year of students of bachelor and first and second year of students of master. And of course, the foundation and the first year student also can benefit from the topics that I will discuss today. And fortunately, maybe if we call it opportunity for them, they will have more time, 3 years ahead, to work on those points. However, the third and fourth year and the last year of students have less time to work on those topics because they have less time until how to say labor market competition. So the topic is job interview tips, and a little bit about myself. As you already know, my name is Tural, and I'm experienced in resourcing, recruitment and selection, learning and development, branches of HR, human capital, competency management, HR information system implementations throughout 9 years, starting from 2011. I got my bachelor degree at State Oil. I'm sorry, I've heard too much State Oil, and that's why I just missed. I had my bachelor degree from the Academy of Public Administration as a president of the Republic of Azerbaijan as an administrative management. Then I went study abroad within the state scholarship program in Germany as an international business and economics, a Master of Arts, and then MBA at State St. Mary's University of Texas in the United States, holding dual degree in Masters, and currently holding the position of Head of Learning and Development of State Oil Company of the Republic of Azerbaijan, shortly SOCAR, and holding PMP International Credential Project Management Professional, also Master of Project Management certificate from George Washington University, which I studied that certificate in BHOS in 2017. Very enthusiastic about sharing my knowledge and hobbies about reading books, reading articles, updating knowledge every day, every moment, which I'm going to talk about this point, why it is important in the next minutes. Any questions about myself? Okay.
If you have any questions, you can write to the chat box, guys. Then I will ask Albert.
Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you, Talia, and thank you for sharing the questions, because I'll not have opportunity to see the chat box. I will ask you kindly address the question to me once you get it in chat box. Well, so tips for being successful in job interviews. Before starting, I mean, certain points and tips that I will direct you on those topics. I would like to stress out just one point that to keep in mind, that although some points will be shared today in the presentation or somewhere else in the future that you will attend in some events or seminars that you can hear more than tips or completely different viewpoints or approaches from other speakers about how to be successful in job interviews. It is quite normal. It is because all those tips and techniques usually come from experience, come from lessons learned, and it's quite natural that in different speakers' viewpoints it differs. So don't be messed, and try to stick to those which you find logical and which you find applicable in your own practice, because each practice is unique, and also there are a lot of books. Probably most of you have seen or have read, like seven key success factors of I don't know, being rich, or eight traits of effective people, 10 traits of effective leaders, etc. Personally, I don't prefer such kind of books, actually, because most of those books are written by Western writers, Western authors, which come from Western mentality and Western culture, and might not be working in our environment. I have, for example, read recently one of the books of how to be rich in 101 ways. If I don't I'm not mistaken, is about the author was Hill, Napoleon Hill, and most of these advices were irrelevant, because you know, in Western societies, students get more freedom once they graduated from high school, and they are not followed by parents starting from university years. They are more open to challenges after graduating high school, but it's not that case in our country yet. Now, maybe in the future it will be the same, but not today. That's why everything and all our culture and values comes from our high school years and our family, and that's why there may be some collisions. And another point I want to stress out is that chance is very important. Maybe some of your colleagues in the future, or your students in your faculty, can get very successful job without even following any of the tips I will share today. And in that case, chance will make its own role in that process. What is chance? Chance is being in the right place, meeting with the right person at the right time, independent of your skills, of your tips that you use in your interviews, etc. So that's about it. That's why I gave this information, because usually students mess with different approaches and tips that are given by different speakers, and also see some of their colleagues got job without following those tips, and they are upset after that. And I gave this information that it's quite natural, and this is not they are not the tips that I give today fixed and cannot be changed. Just follow this and you'll get the job. This is not that way. This is just introduction and direction. So first advice I can give you is knowing yourself. Be self-aware, or define your values. If I ask question to all of you, who can tell that he or she knows himself or herself? And what does it mean for you, knowing yourself?
Please.
Hello. I think I know myself partly, and I am discovering other part of mine.
How much partly? Which percentage?
Maybe more than partly, 65%.
Okay. What else?
Please.
I think knowing yourself is continuous process. Every time we face the statements, we know another part of ourselves. So I think my age is a bit low, 18, but in this age, I know myself, I think good. I experience new things. I just wrote my decisions, sometimes my thoughts on the paper, so it helps me to know myself better. And
exactly.
And one more boy, Tural Bey,
sure.
Mohammed bin Ammar.
Sure.
Hi everyone. So to know ourselves more by knowing our strengths.
I'm sorry, hardly listen you.
To know our,
Hardly hear you. Okay.
and now, can you?
Yes, now it's okay.
Okay. So to know ourselves more is by knowing our strengths and weaknesses, and develop our strength and work for our weaknesses to make them a strength. And there is a method which called SWOT analysis. It's SWOT. It means strength, weaknesses, opportunity, and trait. It's good for us to know ourselves more. It will help us.
Good. Any other ideas?
May I say?
Yes, sure.
Well, I think that if we know ourselves, it means we know our strengths and our weaknesses. And if we have some problems or we have some weaknesses, we can easily address those problems easily. Knowing yourself would help us in that way a lot.
Exactly. Okay. What else? Any idea? No. So, guys, knowing yourself is, yes, also is knowing your weaknesses and strengths. That's also important. And by the way, I have not mentioned in those tips because there was limited space for my tips. That's also important that in interviews, the interviewer can ask you for your strengths and weaknesses. And what I witnessed in my experience as interviewer and interviewee, also that in most cases, people say in interview that I don't know any weaknesses in myself. I have only strengths, and they list just 1, 2, 3 strengths and stop. Or they say I don't have any idea about my strengths and weaknesses, and I'm so modest. I can't say my strengths. I can say only my weaknesses. I'm so modest. So, but it's also wrong. And there's also the third option that no idea about my strengths and weaknesses. I don't know myself. And you can say me, my strengths and weaknesses. Of course, they will say you and they will tell you and they will write you the result of interview as your strengths and weaknesses. But to that point, you should also know your strengths and weaknesses, as those guys mentioned. And also the girl, I don't remember the name, also very good put on the point that, which is tip in the slide now, as you see, define your values, be self-aware, is about the situations and your behaviors in those situations. So what's value? Value is our internal judge, which defines our decisions in different situations. In order to know yourself and to define your values, it's enough, as the guy said, to look back to different situations and how you behaved in those situations. You know, there are a lot of moments and cases and situations in life every day we live, with our parents, with our friends, neighbors, sellers in the market, cashiers, waiters in the restaurant, parking officers in the street, or teachers, professors in universities, university administrative staff, in a lot of interactions. So, you know, people interactions is very complex and difficult to understand. And most of us just leave those moments and pass away. We don't look back and think about our behaviors in those situations and analyze our behaviors in different situations, and in order to grasp and to summarize our approach. If you look back in different, the same situations, but your different behaviors in different situations, you can summarize and common up your values, that what defines your decision, how you make decision. This is important. For example, are you flexible, or you prefer working under strict guidelines or rules? Looking back some situations with your, for example, administrative staff of university, or with your professors, or with your friends, conversation with your friends, you can easily reflect and summarize your behaviors samples and to come to conclusion that in most cases, which behavior you preferred, to be flexible or you value most bureaucracy or working on the guidelines. Both are possible. Or are you ambitious, career focused, or just you let things go on their own pace and you don't actively influence your career map or I don't know your successes. So destiny or your own, make your own ambitious, make your own plans. So a lot of such kind of examples. I mean versus like being emotional or being calm and waiting others act first, or actively communicating or actively listening, or you are more open to more relationships, you value relationships, or you don't so much value relationship. Of course, all of us value relationships, but for example, my brother, it's a real example. My brother have number of friends he call, which he doesn't know the number, really. And in the district where we live, he greets, I mean, one by one every people in the street. I mean, the same age of him. But in contrast, me, I have only 2 friends, one from work and one from student years. And the others, of course, I greet, but I don't have conversation. I don't have any shared principles, values, etc. So it means my brother values relationships more than me. And it has own advantages, and I have my own advantages. His advantage is that, for example, any problem that you have in the life, in your house, kitchen, in your personal life, you can easily call that people that you network to come to your help. And also disadvantage, and which is my advantage, is that you share so much information with them, and it might work against you in some cases. So that's why no good or right values and no bad and wrong values. All values are valuable, if you can call it in that way. But the most important is that you know your values. You know why you behave in that situation, why you behave in that situation, why you had a conflict with your parent. Just analyze, just ask questions yourself, alone, in the room, without anyone. Just ask your question, why I was upset after my parents' such word. What was strange in that word? Why that word influenced me? And you will define that, for example, there is such a phrase which is against your values. And in that way, you will define your values. And you cannot change your values. The values coming from your childhood challenges and childhood experiences, childhood practices, situations, and your unconscious the influence of your parents. Unconscious, so şuuraltı. So why it is important, I will share about in the second point, that be purposeful in job search and align your values. Once you define your values, once you define what is valuable for you in this life, what constitutes your decision. For example, I forgot to say, just there is also one value which influence our decisions, that there are certain people which prefer, in most cases, majority. Some people prefer plurality. Who can define the difference between plurality and majority, for example? At first glance, it looks like the same. So let me explain. If there are 10 people in the room and 6 of them agree on something, it is majority. At least 6 of them should agree in order to have majority. But there is also a case that out of 10 people, 3 of them agree on one case and the rest of 7, each of them agree in other arguments. It means plurality. However, we don't have majority, we have plurality. We have 3 people thinking on the same thing. Or there is also another value is individuality. So they don't agree with plurality or majority, they have their own belief. For example, you can observe it in social networks. A lot of people share their thoughts in their statuses, comments, and you see that there are some people who try to make others believe their own thoughts, that think in my way, do it in my way. And there are also some people that, despite 99% of people think in other way, they persist to think in their own way. So they have their own way. They don't prone to majority or plurality. That, for example, in restaurant, you can go to breakfast with your student colleagues, and you are 9 people, for example. 8 of them order some meal. You don't like that meal, but majority valued people or plurality prefer to order the same meal, although he or she doesn't like it, and eat it with trouble. But individual people, of course, will order his own, her own lovely meal, and will eat despite the fact the others will see him or her as a stranger. But it's not a problem. Just important is that you should know that. And why it is related with the second tip is be purposeful in jobs which align your values. Once you define your values, you should also define the companies whose values match yours. Any company, as people, I talked in the first point, has its own values. You can see it on their homepage, usually about tab of the website. About, if you click on about, you'll see their values. And more professionally, some companies not only just put their values as a list, they also define and describe underneath each of value that what does it mean for them. For example, professionalism or integrity or customer orientedness or team spirit, diversity, or relationship, or respect to each other, continuous improvement, self-development, safety. So a lot of such kind of value examples you can find if you explore different employers in the market. And the important is that you should align yours with those companies' values, because once you applied and you got into the interview of that company, they will ask questions to understand your values first, and the second, then they will align your values to their, and they will try to find some appropriateness. For example, they will try to understand that, for example, you prefer being individual differentiator rather than being in the majority or plurality. But for example, their value mostly about majority and plurality and team spirit rather than individual thinking. Despite your technical skills and knowledge, they will not select you if they're a professional company, because all of the company team are in the same house, in the same room, and they wouldn't prefer somebody come to their room as a poisonous fish. You know, there's a poisonous fish effect. So this is the best known principle in among recruiters. For example, if recruiters fail and invited somebody who is not matching the values of the company, it's gonna be poisonous fish, which will poison the culture and the spirit in the company's atmosphere, organizational atmosphere. So that's why you should be purposeful. You shouldn't apply to any job that comes out to your screen while you search for. You should explore the company and find the match between your values and the company values. If you find that, that's brilliant match. Just apply, because in recent years and in the future, it will be the case for 100%. I'm sure that recruiters prefer matching values and behavioral skills rather than technical and job knowledge and skills. They are also important, but they weight more behavioral skills and values rather than technical skills. You may be brilliant professional in, for example, chemical engineer or gas engineering or mathematics, information systems, etc. But if you fail knowing yourself, define your values and match the values with the company values, or if they feel that, for example, you'll be stressed under some harsh competition or under challenges, they are not going to select you, because, as I mentioned in the first tips, the values and the behaviors and traits are very difficult to develop and change. They are born with you, and they are with you with your childhood. They grew up with you, and that's what. But of course, in contrast, technical and functional knowledges can be easily developed, with trainings, etc. You know better than me.
Tural Bey.
Yes, please.
I'm so sorry interrupting you, but there is one question from Afak. She asks, how should we answer if we are asked in group interview? Why should we hire you but not others? How can we answer this question?
Okay. I will talk about this question in the next points. Most about next. Some of this question I covered, and I will now explain, and some of them in the next tips. So, okay. First of all, you should know again your strengths and your values, and link it to company values. And once you know and link that value, for example, if somebody asks me why we should hire you, not others, you can say that I have such kind of strengths and traits which match, not only telling your strengths and stopping that, for example, you should hire me that because I have such strengths. That's not enough. You should also link those strengths with that job and the company. How those strengths and your values can be useful for them in that role, in that job, and in that organization. Why I say partly, I explained, because part of it is about your values. So first of all, you should talk about your values that I have. For example, I prefer to work in a team, and when I explored in your website, I have seen that one of your values is team spirit. And I think that I can add value in your teamwork because my value matches your value. Or I prefer relationship, and I have seen in your website that relationship building is your value. Or it might be, for example, if you apply for government organization, for example, usually government organization value is about discipline and hard guidelines and, for example, rules. And maybe your value from your childhood or from your family, I don't know, maybe the same with that. That's good chance. Talk about it and say that. Don't hesitate to talk about your value, which is about obeying to rules and guidelines rather than flexible. For example, if you apply to government or structure and you talk about your value, which is flexible, that I'm very flexible, I hate rules and guidelines, you don't have chance to be selected. The next is about storyteller, and this also answers the question of Afak, that the storyteller, communicate your resume in the right way, hit the 9. Communicating your resume in the right way is about answering the question why they should hire you. That the link, again, keep in mind that the word is link and match. Link and match in your mind, please. Link and match, link and match. Because, for example, you may have, mostly when you will apply the job, except for guys who worked during student years, most of you will be unexperienced, right? Zero experience. You're gonna apply to fresh graduate positions or internship or challenge programs, which will start from zero experience. It doesn't necessarily mean that you shouldn't have stories to tell. Usually stories are accumulated from professional experience, of course. But if you look back and after this session, for example, sit in the room in silence and look back to your past years, reflect in half an hour and write down the interesting stories. Just write down the stories, interesting stories that you lived. It doesn't matter which stories, with your boyfriend, girlfriend, or with your parents, or with your friend. It doesn't necessarily mean. Just write down the story, but in that way, what happened, what went wrong for you, for your mind, and what went good, and how you behave in the future in likewise situations. So that will be your story, and keep it in some notebook in front of you, in your hand, for your future interviews. Why? Because in the future interview, the interviewer will ask you to talk about your strengths and values in stories. So, for example, you said that you should hire me because I have such strengths and value, and that match with your company. They will ask, tell me about the situations where you applied these strengths and this value. In that story, you should talk about, because if you don't talk, if you don't have a story to talk, they will start to think that you're cheating. You're just talking for the sake of talking, and talking about values not to show just the link, not in real life. But it may sound stupid writing down your stories. What does it mean? But it really matters, especially for experienced guys. I say, look to your professional experience, look to your teammates, your manager, your employees, your team members, and remember your last conflict. You know, in some interviews, when I ask this, it is also about students. When I ask, tell me about the conflict that you lived in recent your life, most of them says that I'm not engaged in conflicts. I don't like conflict, and I always pass away from conflicts. I am angel. I've never been engaged in conflict, but it is very professional true lie, because no person is insured from conflicts in this life. Any of us in this room, I'm sure, is engaged at least once in conflict, little or big or middle. The important is that you should remember that conflict and write it down in a sincere way. What happened? What was your scene? What was the scene of your counterpart? Or how you managed that conflict? How you resulted? How you got lessons from that conflict learned for the next situations? I should also say that that it is wrong statement that conflicts are bad things. Conflict not only bad. Conflict can lead to development, can lead better relationships also. I have experienced personally, really. I had conflict in one or two persons in my life, and I have now very good relationship with them after that conflict, because in conflict, you open up your inside out, your values, you know better like your counterpart, you know better the people engaged in conflict. And once you solve the conflict, of course, you will both have your own viewpoint, and you better know yourself, better know themselves, and you remove all misunderstanding with them. And of course, that conflict's worth to be in your notebook as a stories, really, don't they? Yes. But the other stories also, it not necessarily should be conflict. It can be also positive. Again, for example, when I pass away in the street, I saw somebody hit his car. I stopped by and helped him. This is a story. For example, in 2015, there was heavy snow in Baku, and I was coming back from university. I was then teaching at Khazar University, International Business. When I came back, my car was in very bad situation in the heavy snow, and people passing away, they were from India and Pakistan, working in nearby here. They pushed my car, my own how to say nationality. I mean, our country, our friends didn't help me, but they helped. For example, that's a story, and I valid it and put it in my how to say log in order to speak about in the events like this or in other interviews. Or it's not necessarily for interviews. You can also have conversation with your friends and with some respected people, with your professors, and it gives you clues or ideas to share about your experience. You know, when somebody we tell about to talk about people as experienced, it does not necessarily mean the professional experience. Life experience is also valued. Me as a HR, for example, unanimously prefer the guys who has stories, background, who has stories to tell me, who has experience, who had behaved in different situations. Most of us do it, but don't record and can't tell about it. This is a very important part. You know, I have a lot of time faced that situation. For example, I told that I'm an accountable person. I'm an accountable person. I'm very good. Hire me. I will not leave any of your job uncompleted. I will do it. All of these by the deadline. They say that I believe you. I want just to see just little example in your life or work experience where you were appreciated for your accountability and how you managed it. How you were able to be accountable. What it means for you being accountable. So that's why storyteller and storytelling, by the way, is a competency, special skill, storytelling. I'm not kidding. You can find trainings in Udemy, LinkedIn Learning, or Coursera about storytelling. Storytelling, how to tell stories. And find those trainings and take those trainings. It's very important, storytelling. And conflict management is also additional topic, training topic. By the way, I just told a couple of things about conflict, but it is huge topic, and you should explore. Any questions or observations up to that point before I move to the next option? Okay.
Talia, your mic is closed.
I'm so sorry. I have one question that let's say you are HR and you ask me the question, what's your strengths and weakness? Can I answer this question with the same thing. For example, let's say I am the deadliner and I'm talking about both of them, weakness and strengths. Is it true or not?
I couldn't catch the question. You say that should you answer the question the same way? I mean, what do you mean? Pardon.
Yes. For example, you are asking me this question, and I'm asking, for example, being deadliner is my strength and also weakness. And I am telling the story about both of them. And is it acceptable, accountable, or not?
Yes, it is acceptable. And if you could justify both of them, why you consider it weakness, why you consider it strengths, and actually you should, if you define your values correctly, you should prefer one of them. Because, for example, if you consider deadliner being your weakness, it means your value your value is about flexibility. So internally you are a flexible person.
Yes.
But in some cases, you had to be deadliner and you succeeded to be deadliner. But it doesn't necessarily mean that you prefer to be deadliner. Of course, there were some situations that you had to be deadliner and you succeeded. And you better delivered your deadlines. But internally, it means unconsciously, you didn't like it. It could have been better if the deadline is flexible. So that's why, of course, you can answer again in both cases that in such situation I prefer it to be positive strengths, and in that case it is negative. And professional HR will immediately know that not as the wrong answer or wrong reaction, but will say that I think in that case it is your, for example, strengths.
Mm-hmm.
Why? Because you internally value flexibility. However, you succeeded to be deadliner. It means in our cases, in our situations, you will also be able to be deadliner. However, you internally don't like in your life to be deadliner. For example, if you go somewhere to work, to have a walk, you leave home more than an hour. You are preparing. But if you switch to your professional life in university, for example, you strictly obey to deadlines. However, when you have a walk in your life, you leave house for more than an hour. However, there are people that leave, especially boys, in 15 minutes, the house. So it depends. Again, you should answer as long as you justify. You justify that. I had also experience as an interviewee, or I answered when HR asked me. I answered accountability, for example, my accountability as both strengths and weakness. How I answered, if it's interesting, I can share that. Yes, as a negative side, I thought that I put that in some cases accountability makes me crazy. I go too much in detail, and it creates for me an anxiety and psychological stress and discomfort. Even in the night when I sleep, I still think about my projects, etc. And I want to leave that trait. I don't want to think while I sleep about the project and work. I want to leave the work at the office when I leave. I want accountability till 6 p.m. I don't want accountability after 6 p.m. the work, for example. And I am struggling, really. Personally, I'm struggling. I'm doing some practices. For example, I switch off the email, etc. after 6 p.m., etc. That in order to be accountable only at the office. But that's the, for example, story I had. For example, I told in both ways that as a weakness. Why? Because it creates psychological discomfort and stress for me to being so accountable, so in detail.
One more question, Tural Bey. Asker Askerov, I have read that it's possible to complete something in 2 or 3 days. If they give you 1-2 weeks for that work, it's true for me. Does it mean accountability or something else?
When they give you 2-3 weeks, it is what for you?
Asker said that it's possible to complete the work in 2 or 3 days. But in the case, if they give us 1 or 2 weeks for that work, does it mean accountability or something else?
Accountability for him.
Yes.
For him, okay. It is accountability, of course, unanimously, yes. But I want also mention student syndrome in that case, which they are not accountable. So for Asker, it is accountability. They gave you 2 weeks, but you complete in 3 or 4 days. It is brilliant accountability. And it means that you completed that work and want to switch to other one, right? And you are happy to get the next challenge, that I have time, give me next project. And there are also students that wait until those 2 weeks or 3 weeks and relax after they finished. Don't tell about that they finished. It is not also a bad thing.
One more question we have. Is it risk to tell the situation that I make bad situation because of my irresponsibility or something, but at the end I could solve it?
Sure, it should be. Yeah, sincerity is one of the values that recruiters value. You should talk about the situation, how it happened, the same. You could also make stories, by the way. It is also possible, but you should do in such professional way that they couldn't catch it. If they catch it, it will be unprofessional answer. But it is quite natural to say that it happened because of my irresponsibility. And I analyzed, for example, and I found why I was irresponsible, for example. And I found out that I was irresponsible because I was distracted with family issues in that situation. My mind was busy with family issues. That's why I was irresponsible in that situation. But usually I am not irresponsible person. But how I solved it, for example, I make some workarounds, I worked with some of my friends, etc. But I solved it. That's another part. But about irresponsibility, if you of course tell that I am originally a responsible person, of course they are not going to hire you unless that company values irresponsibility, which is impossible. And one more thing about deadlines, I want to just share with you as additional information. There is a Parkinson law, or they call it procrastination or student syndrome, the 3 names. What does it mean? If some work is requires to be completed, for example, 5 days, usually professors and for example, if it is workplace, managers fail to put deadline correctly. They put deadline, for example, 10 days. However, the work is doable in 5 days. We put 10 days. In that case, those students or employees, however, we call it student syndrome because it comes from university, that will not, in general, try to complete it in 5 days, in general, except for some exceptions that, for example, Asker said that I'm accountable, I will finish in 5 days, of course. But in most cases, students will, prolong that job until the deadline. This student syndrome. You have group works assigned by your professors, and you have deadlines, for example, till December 30th. Starting from December 19th till December 30th, more than half of students do nothing until, for example, 27th, 8th of December. And 27th, 8th of December, stress starts and people start to meet every day, every minute, that let's accomplish, let's finish that job, let's finish that group work. We have in deadline is 3 days. But what you have done in that 7, 8 days, in those days you just relax and you thought that I have still time to deadline. This is student syndrome or Parkinson law. It's called in professional life. That and that's why professors and let's say managers in the workplace are advised to give realistic deadline, not more than real deadline. If you give more than deadline, that work, how to say, will be extended artificially to that to fill that deadline. For example, I have work doable in 5 days, but I have 15 days deadline. Why should I complete it in 5 days? I will extend artificially that work until that all the way 15 days. But it is not, of course, preferred. It is also one of the success factors of project management. In project management, one of the questions in the, for example, project management professional exam was about how to avoid that student syndrome when you assign deadlines to your project team. Okay. The next is about carefully exploring the employer, which partly we discussed in Be Purposeful in job search part, that and job, adapt and connect your stories. In that case, I'm mostly about talking about linking technical part of your resume to the job. Value and behavioral part we have discussed already. Technical part is about, for example, as far as I know, I'm not a technical person, but as far as I know from interviews and from working with technical staff, that chemical engineering or process engineers, like as a specialty or faculty, can work both in refinery, or midstream, downstream and upstream, also production, oil and gas production. Because there are also some pipeline designing, etc., and other, how to say, installations designs, and the selection of materials of installation or pipelines depends on the liquid which will be inside of that pipeline or installation. That's why process engineering comes to the place. And in refinery, it's pretty straightforward. So chemical engineer or process engineer is why they work in refinery. It's pretty straightforward. You know better than me. But if you applied for example, and in university years, you covered both production part, installations, pipeline selection, etc., engineering part, and also processing part of chemical engineering. Maybe I'm mistaken. Sorry for that. Just I should give example from your own specialties and faculties that I have recently just witnessed that situation. We hired from Imperial College London process engineer to our upstream company, Ümit Babek operating company, as a process engineer for the project. And when you ask the question, the interviewer as HR interviewee, about which topics you covered in your university years, or what's your favorite topic, or how you find a relationship with your faculty and this job. In order to answer that question, technically, soft we have discussed already. Technically, you should first explore the profile of employer. Profile. You can also find this information about page of website. What is their core business? What are they doing? What are they producing? What are they selling? Which product they are gaining revenue, profit? How they make money? what their most valuable product. Once you define it, then you should switch to the job description that you have seen in the advertisement, job advertisement. So there are in each job descriptions, usually they should have requirements. Doing that, doing this, etc., and functional knowledge, knowledge base, which kind of knowledge, and then you should look at back your transcript and the year in university years, which subject you covered. You may cover both process engineering production part, also refinery part. And in that interview, if you applied for example, BP, which is not refinery in Azerbaijan, you should talk more about the skills and knowledges and topics you covered in university, mostly about the parts which relates to that job. So you shouldn't talk about all your subject, all your which cover. Interviewer wants to listen, wants to hear about the skills that you learned at university or internship, which matters or relevant to that job, specific job. You should relate. For example, I should again give you an example from my experience. I worked for both for recruitment and learning and development, and also student scholarship programs, and also higher education curriculum design. When I was interviewed, it was about the position at Ministry of Education. Ministry of Education doesn't care about recruitment, right? However, I have experience also, and they have my resume in front of them. They asked me, why you applied to that job? This is the answer for that question. I should say that, for example. However, it might be not sincere answer, by the way, if I need that job. I should say that in my professional experience, I did the job of higher education curriculum analysis, scholarship programs, etc., and did much in that sphere in the university, in the interview, in order to show the part of my professional experience relevant to that position, and to impress them, to create the idea in HR interviewer about me being able to carry out that job, because I have experience, not only in the resume. Because in the resume or in your transcript, there may be just list of the subjects that you cover. It doesn't speak out loud which subject you focused more in university years, or which subject you loved, which subjects you had spent much more time reading and exploring additional articles. They are not written in the resume and or the transcript. You should talk about it. And the same in my resume. They see that, for example, I have worked 3 years in recruitment, 4 years in scholarship, 3 years in higher education curriculum, but it doesn't necessarily mean that which part of my work experience is highlighted for that position. Did you get that idea? Any questions?
There is no question yet. I think we can continue.
Yes, in that tip, to summarize, you should talk about the part of your resume which is most relevant to that job and to that direction of that company operations. Be professionally courageous and ambitious. This is about the question that HR asks you, which is cliche in interviews. Where do you find yourself in 5 years? I see in LinkedIn and Facebook posts that non-HR people usually find that question ridiculous and laugh at that those HRs who ask that questions. I would laugh at HRs who ask this question for the sake of asking and doesn't knowing the essence of that question. However, the guys who knows why ask this question, it's quite a normal question. But you shouldn't react to that question in that way that, I don't know, you tell me, we'll see. It's not the right answer, guys. You should clearly talk about your vision, where you want to be. And you can add that I'm not sure that I will be there or not, of course. I'm sure for some degree, for 30%, for 20%, but at least I have some idea, at least some vision. Where you find that information, again, you can find that information in About button of web page of companies, where you find the organizational structure of that company to see which teams, which manager positions, which, I don't know, senior professional positions does that company possess. Once you find out, then you again coming to the brilliant word link and connect and match your own missions and ambitions and vision. For example, you can always, your answers always are welcome when you start with telling that when I explore your operations and structure from your website before the interview, when you start your sentence with that question, with that answer, sorry, that sentence, you have already 5 points in the pocket that HR will appreciate that you explore their operations, organization, and then you continue. I found out that there is a position that chemical team leader, process team leader. That's quite attractive for me. I found it very attractive for me. And I think in 5 years, I can be process engineering team leader in your organization. Of course, if you develop me properly, should add. Because your responsibility is being courageous and ambitious, but it doesn't, you know, it doesn't it isn't enough. They should also, as a company, invest in you. They should create personal development plan, and you should develop by passing certain trainings, mentoring, coaching, etc. That's also important, guys. Reward your failure with lessons learned. About this tip, I have mentioned a little bit in the storyteller part, that you just, after this session or any time in your life in the future, reflect in silence about your story, situations in your past. Or, for example, yesterday you had a conflict with one of your colleagues in the work. Just after that, at the end of that day, after having a cup of tea or coffee at the home, think in silence, or Moonlight Sonata of Mozart, for example, or Chopin. Just think about that situation and write down again what happened, what could be happened, what went wrong, what went right, and what is the lessons you learned from that situation for your future. Because in project management, for example, there is official template document, which is called Lessons Learned Register. I'm not talking about just because I think that. I'm talking from professional examples. So Lessons Learned Register. This is also for example, Shahtani's second project, big project, right? Mega project. They have also lessons learned register, not only you and me, because they have meetings. In each meetings, they have conflict. They have different ideas. They have failures. Most of our plans don't go the way we planned, right? In our life. For example, very little, very primitive example from our personal life. When we go to shopping or buying some products to our housekeeping, little, like some of them we buy from grocery, some of them we buy from supermarkets, right? And we also buy some drugs from pharmacy. They locate in different places in our district. I had such lessons learned in my personal life. But I start from pharmacy. Started, bought my drug, then I went to grocery, bought some vegetables, some fruits, and then in the last I came to supermarket. And the entrance of supermarket, you are required to put what you have bought to certain cases in order to enter the market, right? You have, and I have 2 hands full with all those products that I have bought, and I couldn't match all those products and belongings to cases of the supermarket. What I have done, I lost time. I went to house, put those belongings and products, and come back to supermarket again and bought something again went to home. I failed in time management, and I was late to the work. Then I analyzed the situation, and I saw that sequence of my activities was wrong. I should have started from supermarket, then to pharmacy, and then to grocery. Or I can put what I have bought from grocery and pharmacy, put into the car, which is in front of supermarket, and then enter to the supermarket without nothing in hand. So everything in our life and professional life goes through lessons learned. And by recording our lessons learned, analyzing each our failures, and rewarding, why I put it here, reward, because every lessons learned we collect is a gift for our future interviews and for our future successes. That's why it is our own personal reward to ourselves. For example, Google company has special program that Google, is technology company and stands on innovations only. Innovation is the main driver of that company. That's why they never can give penalty or how to say, find it failure in the projects. They never call it failure. They call it reward of lessons learned. And each team is allowed to make mistakes and to fail. And those who fail still get their bonuses. Very strange for ourselves, right? But it is a real example. They get their bonus for failure even, but not of course as much as success, sure, but they still get some bonus in order not to be demotivated from fail. If they are demotivated with failure, they will never execute that project in the future again and again to find the right solution. And that's why the first failure is a failure. The first failure is lessons learned. The second failure is irresponsibility. The third failure in the same situation is stupidity. Somebody says about it, but I don't remember the name. Any questions up to the moment?
Guys, if you have any questions, you can write it. Yes, there is a question. If you are asked, what's your salary expectation for this job? Should we say the amount or not? If yes, then above average or below? What if we don't know the amount they are ready to pay?
The last question I couldn't. What the last expression, please? Could you repeat?
If we don't know the amount of money they are ready to pay.
Good question. And you hit the point, guys. You asked the question, and my next tip is about that question. Did you see this slide? So check the pulse of the skill market. You should always have your hand in the pulse of the skill market and explore, ask your colleagues, different, there are a lot of, by the way, publishings in the internet. You can find about average salary reviews in the labor market in your own specialty area. For example, there are reports I have seen in oil and gas engineer salary survey in 2020 in the world over average, and you can predict a little bit lower than world average in the faculty area. Your faculty graduate salary review. So you can read publishing articles about industry average salary surveys about your in your field, in your area. But if the question is about should we tell it, you should tell it immediately. You shouldn't tell that it's up to you. How much you want, give it me that amount. Give me that amount. You couldn't say it. If you say it, he will give you the lowest amount. Believe me. You don't expect that they will give you more than your. So they can't predict how much you think internally, right? That's why you have to tell. Even your expectations is more than average or more than they can give you, and you should add such point that my expectation, for example, 1.5 hundred manats, but please don't put my resume aside based on that decision. Give me your own offer. Maybe I will think and I will change my mind. At that point, that I expect. I don't know your potential, how much you can give. But for example, that's the best answer. I don't know your potential, how you much give me, but I expect 1.5, for example, 100 to cover my needs. However, I'm open to discussions, to negotiations.
I think it's clear, Tural. We can continue.
That's all about the topics. Tips. Now I'm going to switch to the most trending skills in 2020, and most probably they will continue to be trending in 2021 because nothing changed except for COVID-19. So soft skills. What do you think? Which Do you know what soft skills? I'm sure you know. Soft skills is about behavior, our behavior, not technical. What do you think, which soft skills are trending in 2020? Your ideas. Just write down and colleagues will sound it.
Afak and Fidan raised their hands.
Uh-huh.
Fidan wants to start.
Let's take their answer.
Communication skills, communication and time management, emotional intelligence. They are writing to the chat.
Remember your answers. Now we will come and you will see. Communications, emotional intelligence, and what they said, the first?
Time management.
Time management, communication, adaptation.
Thinking,
okay. Okay. Right. It seems you guys are really brilliant. You explore publishing industrial reports, articles, because you're more or less on the same page. And hard skills, soft skills. But we start from hard skills. Soft skills. Creativity. Persuasion is also means influencing people. Collaboration. Adaptation. One of you told about it. Agile mindset approach. I mean, adapting to different situations, being flexible. Emotional intelligence. Right, hit the 10, hit the target, hit the point. And communications can stand for persuasion. Communication, I mean, also is trending in the clause of persuasion. Creativity, collaboration is about working together and helping others. If you come to hard skill, you have already seen it, and I will not ask that question. That's why. So, blockchain, cloud technologies, analytical thinking, artificial intelligence, user experience design, business analysis, sales, scientific computing, and video production. I would focus on video production. Video production is both more important for social media marketing and also for e-learning. Udemy, Coursera, LinkedIn Learning, all of them based on video production. So they produce the videos and sell it. And also social media marketing. So today's marketing of advertisement is zero without short videos, animations. I'm so sorry, I should answer the telephone a little bit, just 5 minutes.
No problem. Tural, your microphone is muted.
Okay. And sales. Sales is also trendy and will be more trendy in 2021 because purchase power of customers in the world overall went down, and people are competing on the same customers, I mean sellers, and that's why the sales needs more innovation, and more innovative sales persons will be needed in the companies in order to sell their products to a limited audience, limited purchasing power. The rest of the skills, pretty straightforward, is about information technologies and transformation, digital transformation. And I have a couple of more advice to, which is more about action rather than tips, which is continuous. Continuous should be in your continuous in your professional work experience and also your student life. First is networking and relationship building is extremely important, guys. attending events, seminars, different seminars, workshops, I mean, conferences, very important. You are lucky, guys, because in our days in student life, back to 2005, such kind of event that you, BHOS student chapter SP organized, were almost, there were almost no such kind of events. We couldn't chance to, there was only one public union, which is called İrali Public Union Forward in our language, in English language, sorry, Forward Public Union. We unionized only under that organization and only met in some points in the year, discuss some issues, and no such kind of social network, networking opportunities, and we couldn't use. We hardly used that opportunity. But you have in opposite, in contrast, you have a bunch of opportunities. Every day there are a lot of networking events, seminars, and it is hard to avoid to attend in that period. However, it was hard to find in our days, but it is now hard not to attend because every day there is network, and it's important to find and to build relationship with HRs, with interviewers, with students from other universities, or from just engineers, or for example, senior engineers of BP and other companies that you are planning to work, in order to get advice in real work life. And real world at work is completely different from what you have learned at university years, guys. It's completely. It doesn't matter which company it is. BP, Schlumberger, Halliburton, or SOCAR, or any other company and university, doesn't matter. It is MIT, Harvard, BHOS, or oil and industry university. It doesn't it doesn't matter, because real world at work is completely different. There is organizational politics in the organizations and companies. Organizational politics is also a huge topic of training, which normally I deliver for early year fresh employees in the company, that they should know how to navigate the communications and relationship in the company. Who is more powerful manager? Who is less powerful manager? You know, there are always in the companies, for example, positions you can see in organizational charts, like vice president, vice president, vice president, vice president, or manager, manager, manager. But believe me, in real world, they are not on the same line. They are not on the same power. All of them has name of vice president, but some of them has more power. Some of them has its own stakeholder requirements. That, for example, don't write email to me. You can only connect me through interaction. You should come to my room. For example, in order to have conversation with me, you have to wait after 6 p.m. at work if you want something to discuss with me. Some of them has such requirements. Some of them says that don't call me, never call me, only write. Some of them says that only live interaction, come to my room. Again, some of them, for example, require weekly update. Managers also differ. There is not such a one-size-fits-all rule for all managers, that all managers want daily report. No. For example, I hate daily report from my subordinates. I prefer weekly, at least, monthly, quarterly, yearly, and it depends. There are some managers, for example, ask his subordinates or her subordinates, at the end of each day, write down what you have done today. I want to see. I want to control you. You have to work with such kind of managers, also with the kind of managers which, for example, don't require each step of your work today, what you have done. However, they want result, what you achieved, what you have done, what you have achieved. That's most matter for those managers, which are leaders, not managers. You may face both kind of boss, both kind of managers in the workplace. Therefore, you should be prepared for both of them. You should be ready to work with both of them, both kind of them. And in order to know, to understand how to interact and work with them, you should connect with, on the left-hand side, I show the networking and relationship with senior engineers who work already in some companies, and to get some tips and advice from them how to interact and connect with that kind of leaders. That's all for today. Thank you for joining. Thank you for time, and thank you for interest. And I tried to transfer my explicit and tacit knowledge. And explicit knowledge is what I have written in the slides together with the help of Talia. Thanks for that, by the way. And my sounded, stories, which is tacit knowledge. You know, tacit knowledge is something that I cannot storage that in somewhere, in Word, Excel, PowerPoint, email, etc. I only convey it in my brain. And if you want to know about it, you should interact with me. So that's my tacit knowledge and explicit knowledge. I've tried to share together with emotions. However, I should also say that I have never gave speech in the morning in my career. I have always given speech afternoon and late in the evening. Okay. Thank you and good luck. Any questions, observations? I'm ready to answer.
Okay, Tural, I'm also very thankful to you for accepting our invitation. There are a lot of thank yous in the chat. That's why I cannot talk right now. Thank you very much again and again for today. And dear participants, if you have any questions, you can ask. And about the next session, you will receive a new update. Okay. Thank you for joining us. I think if there are no questions, we can end up our session. There are a lot of thanks you for your presentation, Tural.
I see.
Thank you
I
so
see.
much.
Thank you.
It was fascinating.
Thank you too. Thank you too. I'm happy to get such feedback, and I would also like to get the points where I should improve.
I think everything was great, and I had a lot of things learned today because I didn't have any experience. For example, a real life experience that I heard today from HRs. That's why I think that was great, and I heard a lot of things. Yeah, usually when in interviews, candidates when candidates got a question about the experience or examples, usually when I asked that question for candidates, which were fresh graduates, told me that I have no work experience. How can I tell you about any specific example? I said, give me example from your life experience. And silence. That's why I said that when you are asked to give example or story, it does not necessarily mean that it should be professional work experience. It should be also from your life, from everyday life. Okay. Okay. One more thing. What can you say about your success? Hardworking, or what's that? Nigar asks this question. I wouldn't say hardworking. I would say smart working and plant working, accountability and planning, emotional intelligence. I would say when, for example, I'm asked in the interviews about my strengths, I say accountability, planning, emotional intelligence. Planning because I am and also continuous improvement, by the way. And planning and continuous improvement is interrelated. Why? Because I am not chaotically reading books, articles, etc. I'm doing it by plan. For example, even about books which I read, I plan. I have certain sequence that
When I read personal development book, after I read detective, and then I read roman, for example, lyrical roman, something which calms me down, and then again self-development, then professional. There is a series, certain sequence. Without that, chaotically, you can't achieve something. Or I have, for example, a limit that 3 days I read book, 3 days I read articles in the internet, which I have a certain list, which I found in the internet and put in my library, electronic library in the laptop. And the next 3 days, I look videos, watch videos in YouTube, for example. So everything should be planned. Should be even, for example, buying something to the house, belongings, should be planned and should be written in reminder in my, for example, smartphone. That's my way. Without planning, I can't live. I can't live without planning. If I don't plan and just got tasks from my managers, from wife, from children to buy something, and also from my colleagues, I'm killed. You know, I should plan everything. I should protect my emotions with emotional intelligence. I'm not easily engaged in conflicts, engaged in increasing my sound. So I'm trying to regulate my emotions, and I'm trying to, how to say, not interact with negative people. I also call them energy vampires. I don't interact with those. And also accountability, not student syndrome or Parkinson law. For example, if this job is doable in 5 days, I do it in 5 days. It doesn't necessarily mean that how many deadlines they give me. And also continuous improvement. For example, somebody said, I don't remember the author, said that if you have only hammer at your hand as a tool, you will see everything as a nail around you, because you have only hammer. Everything nail for you. But you have also other tools. You can apply those tools in different situations. And in order to have such tools in your luggage, in your professional luggage, you should continuously improve. What you learn today at university, believe me, is irrelevant next year. In 1960s, in 20th century, when our parents were young, the higher education, university years knowledge was relevant for at least 10 years in the labor market. Then early in 2000, it was 5 years. Then in 2010th year, it was 2 days. But today, after you graduate university, tomorrow, your knowledge is irrelevant. You should accept that reality. Of course, there are some pathos on that argument, of course. But the reality is that if it is not tomorrow, the day after tomorrow, it is irrelevant. That's why that's one of the common mistakes that students and graduates make. That I have diploma, I have graduated from BHOS, I know English, I know some Excel and computer skills, I am done. Okay, I can't find a job. I have cousin who has graduated from ADA University and really good, very good background. But I give him advice that work on yourself. Go to the courses, short courses, ACCA, CFA, I don't know, different certifications. In coming 15 years, 10, 15 years, I think personally, as an HR, my analytics says that diploma will be irrelevant. Only certifications will be relevant. The guy, there is a guy recently we have hired with University of Culture and University of Culture and Art, which is a professional artist as a diploma, but got certificate from well-controlled drilling abroad, and we hired him to the well-controlled position. However, nothing to do with a diploma. So this era is coming. So diploma is irrelevant. Throw it away. Work on professional experience certifications, project management professional, ACCA, CFA, CPA, PPA, TPA, QPA, CPA, a lot of those kind of institutions, CIPD, SHRM. I know and I believe that in your areas there are also some certifications like SPE, etc. And you should gain such kind of certifications and international qualification rather than your mere diploma. This is old mindset. Having diploma and it's okay.
I think you have also motivated us about the diploma and international certifications. I think there are no more questions. We can end up our session, I think. Thank you very much again, Tural Bey, for accepting our invitation, and also dear participants. Thank you joining us this second time for this event. And one more update: you will receive new update about the second session, and please check your emails. Okay. Goodbye. Have a good day, Tural Bey.
Thank you. You too.
Thanks, Tural Bey.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Bye.